for introduction. Yeah, so thank you very much for Alberta Sports Support Unit for this invitation, and also everyone being here to complete this presentation. And Carrie and Sakiko, myself, we are very happy to present our work related to this parent-peer mentorship. So I just wanted to introduce our team members as well. So this study on the parent-peer mentorship was conducted by a research team that consists of both researchers as well as the parent partners and also the Child Right Network citizen engagement coordinators. So Annette and Keiko, researchers designed the study, and myself also involved in analyzing the data, and also Carrie and also Sharon from the Citizen Engagement Council designed the role of this peer mentor, and also Colleen supported this initiative as well. So in this presentation, we are happy to talk about the parent-peer mentor role in SPORE network. So how it functions to support parent partners of the children with disabilities. And also we are going to share our reflections and learning on how a parent-peer mentor can contribute to improve the experiences of parent partners in research. Okay. So for those who have not heard of Child Right Network, it is a pan-Canadian patient-oriented research network funded by CIHL. The overall goal of the network, including 13 projects in total, was to improve life outcomes for children with brain-based developmental conditions and their families. Applying integrated knowledge translation approach, patient partners, including youth with disabilities, parents, and caregivers of children with disabilities, have been actively engaged as partners in all research projects and activities of the network as a whole. Since 2016, which was the launch of the network, a number of efforts were made to include patient engagement in the network, since most of the patient partners, including parent partners, were involved in research projects for the first time. So based on experiences and feedback coming from patient partners during the first year of the network development, the need to provide structured peer mentorship for parent partner was identified as a strategy to enhance and maintain engagement. So how the parent-peer mentor role was created. So 2 years after the network launch, in 2018, the Citizen Engagement Council of the network took the lead in defining the role of the parent-peer mentor. The eligibility for parent-peer mentor was to have research involvement, and more specifically in patient-oriented research, as well as having skills in listening and facilitation. In order to address the recognized engagement barriers, the specific object of the parent-peer mentors were first to provide additional open channels of communication, and then second, to identify the needs of parent partners to build trust and also decrease power dynamics within the research teams, and also third, to identify strategies that facilitate engagement in order to improve patient-oriented research practices. So in parallel with the launch of the parent-peer mentorship support, actually the research team conducted this case study in order to better understand this phenomenon of this parent-peer mentorship in the context of patient-oriented research. The parent-peer mentor approached around 50 parent partners who were involved in different research projects of the network, by email, and then she set up a one-on-one conversation with parent partners. During the meeting, peer mentor talked about, introduced herself and also explained her role as the parent peer mentor, and also talking about the experiences of the as partners in the patient-oriented research of the different projects. So if parent partners brought up some issues, then the parent peer mentor offered support. So this conversation was documented as long as the parent partners offered and gave the consent to the recording. And so this communication report became a data source for this case study to analyze. In addition, a researcher of the case study team conducted a semi-structured interview with a parent peer mentor to have in-depth understanding of the experiences and also perspectives of the mentorship. So this communication report, as well as the interview transcript, were analyzed using qualitative descriptive analysis. So I'm just going to share some of the results. So in total, in 2021, we had 53 parent partners in the network. The parent peer mentor reached most all of them, and then the number of parent partners whose communication was recorded for this study was 25. And the frequency of the parent peer mentorship supported received by parent partners was mostly once or twice, which was 19 participants out of 25. So now Carrie is going to share her experiences, also showcase some of the roles of the parent peer mentors.
So yes, so I am the parent peer mentor in the paper. I know there's a pseudonym there that is Amy, but that is me. So I'm going to talk from that perspective and really about sort of the different ways in which the parent peer mentor became part of the network and part of the sort of connection system between the parents and different people. And first we'll talk about with research teams directly. So a lot of parents in the network were directly related to one research project, sometimes more than one, but most of them were just one. And so in conversations with these 25 parents, we really found that there was some things that research teams could do better. So we did put some sort of generalized suggestions together. And then there were certain things that were specific to a specific research team. For example, one person mentioned, well, but I gave an idea and I worked on that idea and I sent it off and then I didn't know if it got used. And it was being used and everybody on the study loved it, but that loop just hadn't quite been closed. So sometimes it was a really simple matter of trying to close that loop. Sometimes it was a little more complicated. A lot of the parents I talked to were unsure of whether they were supposed to reach out to researchers. They didn't want to bother them because they knew they were super busy. And some of them also talked about in meetings, they had difficulty speaking up because sometimes one of the problems was sometimes they just didn't quite understand the data that was being presented and didn't feel like they could kind of say, I don't get it at all. So really, some of the things that we've put out to research teams is sort of just making sure you're checking on understanding and checking on understanding in a way that doesn't sound like you should have understood. And there is a difference there because just saying, hey, got it? Or hey, do you understand? Can actually feel a little bit like I'm stupid, I don't understand. So really going, okay, even starting off saying things like, it's okay if you don't understand, this might be really complicated. Please stop me, please ask questions. Really starting off from that point of view can really, really help. One-on-one conversations once a year to check in, to give that parent partner a moment to talk about what's happening in the meetings or bring up any problems that they have directly to the staff or the research project directly. That was super important to a lot of people. Just like go in a big meeting, I'm not going to say, I'm really having trouble with this. But if somebody's reaching out, maybe once a year, maybe once every 18 months, depending on your project and how many patients and how it all works, but really to make sure there's that one-on-one connection so people feel more comfortable bringing problems directly to the research team. The biggest thing, if I can tell you anything, is update. Even if the update is there is no update. The amount of parents I talked to who were like, I don't even know, am I still on that research team? I'm pretty sure I am, but I haven't heard anything. Did I miss something? Was I supposed to be doing something? Update. Just sit, even if it's a monthly, hey, nothing's going on, we're still recruiting, doesn't matter. Really, those updates are super important to make patient partners feel like, and in this case specifically, I was talking to parents, that they haven't missed something, or they haven't fallen off the email list, or something. Because I know a lot of people on the research team, you're sort of meeting regularly, or you sort of understand the research process well enough to know in this time, if I don't get an update, that's fine. But patient partners don't necessarily have that understanding. So really, really thinking about that. We can go to the next slide, please. So listening and creating safe spaces. So this was sort of an interesting about the power dynamics. Walking in as a patient partner, you don't have a lot of power. There's a huge imbalance of power because the researchers hold the money. The researchers, in theory, are responsible for the project, and they have to be. So sort of any decisions are final decisions by the researcher. And also because there is a lack of community among the patient partners themselves. If a researcher has a problem, there's usually a mentor or a colleague or someone down the office or someone across the country who they can reach out to and go, hey, I'm having this problem, I'm not sure how to deal with it, or this is new to me, how do I do this? That's quite normal in the research world, but in the patient partner world, we really don't have that. We don't have any sort of support system. So that's, in theory, what this was sort of trying to create that little bit of a support system so that people could talk to someone outside the research team. And really what that meant is at the end of the conversation, I would offer a few different things, but one of them was like, some people went, okay, after this conversation, I actually feel comfortable. I've worked it out. I've figured it out. I feel comfortable going back to the research team myself. Because it's not that the research team wouldn't listen. It's just that they hadn't quite figured out how to approach it yet, or how to think it through. They hadn't been able to talk through it with anybody. Other times they asked me to approach the research team, and I would do that in a sort of, sometimes they said, I don't care if you use my name. Sometimes they said, I'd prefer to be anonymous. Either way, we respected those wishes. And so we would circle back to the research team, and then I would circle back to the patient partners, say, this is sort of what the research team said. And I will say that in my conversations, when I started saying, how's it going? I think there was only one patient partner out of the 25 who didn't initially say, oh, it's going fine, which is great because it means they didn't initially think of all the problems. And they certainly talked about how the research team was great and how they were respectful and how the project was so interesting, and they loved being involved. But as we got going, they would start to go, yeah, but I wish, oh, if this happened, or the problem is I don't really know what I'm doing. And am I supposed to be doing something that I'm not doing, but I don't really understand my role? So a lot of it was about getting that conversation going so that then they actually started to reflect on their experiences, and then we can fix some of those problems. Because if we only get to the fine, we only ask the question once and get to the fine, we don't actually get underneath to go, well, this is how we could make it better, or I really don't understand. And really we can try and together, either the two of us or as a research project, or, which we're going to talk about next, the network as a whole, try and fix those problems. So we can go to the next slide. So, and this was really about the connection to the network. So all of the patient partners I was talking about, most of them were connected to a research project that was looking at a specific research question and going through the research process. They were also connected to the Child Bright network as a whole, because each one of these projects was sort of part of this network. But initially, many of the patient partners, I would say more than half, did not know that they were sort of part of this network. And so they were a little confused sometimes by some of the emails from the network about the surveys or about this or about that. So a lot of it was sort of really going, okay, so we're doing, it's great that we have all these patient partners, but we're not doing a great job of defining their roles and having them understand that there is this sort of network outside that is there to support these projects. So a lot of it came down to onboarding. So we really worked hard for a year to really figure out what's the onboarding process. How do we support people to be onboarded, so that they understand their roles, that they know who to go to, that they feel comfortable getting started. and also that they understand that there's this network behind all these projects that can support in many different ways, including someone like myself as the parent peer mentor. Also, and also there was a few things that came up because I'm calling parents throughout the year, right after one of our early surveys. So every year we would have some community-based surveys that we would do. And one of them, I have an example over here on my computer that I'm going to read out, was really hard for parents to sort of fill out. So the question was, over the past year, to what extent has your experience with the partnership increased your confidence in your professional or daily practice or day-to-day activities? Which makes sense for certain subsets of the population, but for a parent partner, they're kind of looking at that question going, I don't know how to answer that because my daily job is, I don't know, I'm a teacher, and then I come home and I do this on the side for like 3 hours a month or 3 hours every 4 months. So it really was hard for them. And because we were calling people throughout the year, when this survey came out, we got a lot of feedback going, this survey doesn't make any sense to patient partners. And the network has been wonderful about making changes very quickly, actually, based on that. So they changed that one survey to a different one, the PPEET, which actually is really, really great. And I have the, what is it? The public and patient community engagement tool. And because again, we were reaching out to partners a year later when we redid that survey, there was actually feedback about how the survey was easy to complete and they really appreciated that. So sort of within a year, all of that changed based on just constantly reaching out and having these conversations. All right, we can go to the next slide. So we sort of have these different roles, the supporting of community building, the sense of community. We had that desire to connect with other parent partners. And what was interesting is that there was sort of the desire to connect with me, but there was also a desire to go like, can we make it a larger community? And we tried various things to do that. And we found that none of them worked, or we didn't get it right yet. Who knows, maybe in the future we will do that. Part of that, I think, is because the pandemic came along and everybody was stretched very, very thin. Oftentimes, parents were at home with their kiddo with special needs, and it got very complicated. At least I know personally, it got very complicated during that time for me. So, and in talking to parents, there was a lot of like a need for hope and a need for explaining why. There was a lot of questions as like, why am I doing this? Why am I here? I'm not getting anything out of it. So out of those conversations, we really, as a network, went, okay, we need to really connect back to the dream, to what this research is about and why we need to do it. So for one of our sort of, instead of doing a poster sessions, we did 3-minute videos, and we asked research projects to really concentrate on the dream. What is the thing that, the hope for this project? What is the hope that comes out of it at the end? To really bring parents back and bring probably researchers, maybe and staff as well. During the pandemic, I think it was hard for everybody, to the why are we doing this? And that really came out of these conversations with parents. I'll pass it back over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. And so as we heard, there's a couple of perceived benefits of the parent-peer mentorship. In the context where most researchers and parent partners never engaged in a patient-oriented research, effective communication was crucial for both building and also maintaining the relationships. The parent-peer mentorship made significant contributions to improving the research engagement, both at the research team level as well as the network levels. At the research team level, the parent-peer mentorship improved research team environment by playing a liaison role and closing the feedback loop, and also, the nature of being a peer who has similar lived experience also facilitated immediate connections and trust building with other parent partners. In addition, the parent-peer mentor provided emotional support beyond support for concerns and issues that parent partners face during their involvement in a research project. At the network level, at the parent-peer mentor noticed some parent partners were confused with their expected roles and some lower engagement, as Carrie just shared. The parent-peer mentorship actually played a role of conducting some informal monitoring of the engagement process at the network level. In addition, while receiving feedback from parent partners, parent-peer mentors' listening skills and ability to distill stories and experience into something that could be solved helped the network improve communication and support. Sorry, just okay. So I pass on to Carrie.
Yeah, so I'd say one of the first challenges I came across is the name. Parent-peer mentor. Very, very quickly, in I think it was one of my first 4 conversations, somebody said, but I don't need mentoring. And I was like, that's a good point. You probably don't. They actually had probably more experience than I did in actually patient-oriented research and had a lot to share with me. Also had a lot of thoughts and feelings about their project, but really was quite open and honest, going like, part of the reason I didn't reach out initially, because I would email people every 6 months to a year to see if there was anything had changed, was sort of the title. And I was like, that's a really great point. So so we changed it. We couldn't change it on the research protocol, unfortunately, but slowly we've informally changed it everywhere else to a liaison, to really reflect more what we're trying to do. So because some people might want mentorship, but some people might not need mentorship. They actually need someone to support them in connecting or in figuring out the problem, or just someone to talk to. So I think one of the other challenges was how much it became about people's lives, and that's okay, because their lives as as a caregiver certainly is why they're there and why they become a parent partner, and usually why they're involved in the project. But it meant that the skills needed to be the parent liaison were a little bit more soft skills, I think, rather than research skills, which is why I'm eternally grateful for all of the people that helped with this, because I'm not a researcher, and I have learned a lot since we started this project in 2016, and I think I would have been much better at data collection had I known this end and had I understood the research process more. But I was so grateful that for everybody who sort of helped me along with the research process, going, this is how we're going to do it, so that we could actually create this article and sort of get there. Because certainly I didn't have those skill sets. I didn't have the skill sets to write this article or to analyze the data. I was certainly involved, but I did not have the skill set to do that. So really it was an interesting sort of meshing of different skills to make sure we had sort of those soft skills that we were talking about, and sort of but we need those research skills to be able to really analyze and figure things out. And I think I'll pass it back to you for the conclusion.
Thank you. Okay, so in conclusion, as we hear that parent-peer mentor can play an important complementary role in enhancing patient engagement in research at both individual and as well as the network levels. And as we just reported, in this case study, 25 out of 53 parent partners accounts were included for analysis, but it may not represent a whole different diverse perspectives and experiences of parent partners. So maybe the future research on evaluation of the parent-peer mentors' impact in a large research network can be very helpful. And lastly, based on our positive experiences and contributions made by the parent-peer mentor, we would encourage research institutions and networks to allocate some resources to support these initiatives. And so here's the link for our article, and thank you very much everyone for listening. So here is some discussion questions.
Thank you. And if you have any questions before we get to discussion questions, we're happy to answer those first. If you want to throw them in the chat, or you can just come off mute and we can chat about them. Oh, I think we should stop recording now.